A Soul Grows in Israel, a podcast where we ask the questions about ancient Jewish wisdom, modern life, and everything in between. So let's ask, let's have fun, and let's grow together. Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Soul Grows in Israel. This is not a regular episode because today we will split it into two parts. I had the part that I intended and then the part that I didn't. And the part that I didn't has to do with where we are right now. We're past a week of this war. And I can't just put out, an academic podcast without acknowledging what I really want to, which are different kinds of feelings. Now let me explain. So part two are my students. My students have volunteered, and it was their idea, to do their Hasidic evaluation on the podcast. And the question I presented to them was, what was one thing that stood out? It could be a 5-minute thought. What really stood out that we learned in our class together? And I just didn't want to exploit anyone. So of course, I first asked my boss, Shira, and she was like, yeah, let's do it. So that's what we did. And it was great. And then I realized I can't just release that when so many things are going on. But I can tell you a bit about what we're learning, and I would love to delve into it one day because it's Chassidut or Chassidus or Hasidic thought. It's a light that keeps shining on my life specifically. And in the first semester, we tackle the history, and then we go through personalities from the Baal Shem Tov to the Maggid of Mezrich, and we go to Rabbi Nachman, et cetera, down the line, and we discuss their part in history, who was against them, who was with them, what their personality was like, what their life was like, and what they taught, and what carried through, and how people understood it in future generations. It's really interesting. But then comes second semester. And second semester, the girls can switch in, switch out, and usually we just keep riding through, same chevra, and we go forward. And I love second semester because second semester is when I kind of zoom out a little, and we go philosophy, and we talk about the Zohar. The Zohar is way above my pay grade, but I get to learn from people who have learned from people, and they're brilliant, and tzaddikim, etc. But I would say tread carefully, always know your source of where things are coming from, but it is accessible in the right channels. And then we have Rav Isaac Luria, the Ari, who also just like so beautiful. And I'm not necessarily a huge kever person, but the two graves that really stood out to me was Reb Elimelech Milizhen's when I went in Poland, and the Ari, who's in Tzfat. And those two experiences were a little different, but very, very uplifting. I went to Poland with my students many years ago, and I went to help them and take care of them. And that didn't work out the way I thought because I was losing it. I was losing my mind. My body got sick. I couldn't even close my eyes at night for the scenes that would replay in my head. I couldn't believe it affected me on that level. But looking back, it makes sense because I was partially raised by survivors. So when I was there, the one light in the sea of darkness was Reb Elimelech Milizhensk. And the Ari, I went to his kever after I started learning so much about his teaching. So I felt a very magnetic pull there and a lot of appreciation, and it was just so peaceful. And I saw so many little kids were there, and I saw the sun was setting, and I was just full of gratitude, saying thank you. And obviously when I go to graves, I'm quite specific. Like, I'm not praying to the deceased human being, I am praying to God in the zchut of the righteous person who was there and their deeds, etc. But there is an energy there. And again, I am not a huge grave goer, but when I go, I'm quite specific, and it was really nice. But I digress. Okay. So the things that we were learning, I thought very much came into play with the type of week I've been having. And I wanted to just choose one of the lessons one of the girls brought up. There are a lot of things. They spoke about different kinds of laws of attraction, finding the middle line and not being too extremely ecstatic or too extremely depressed if you can handle it, and finding what we call the kav ha'emsa'i, the middle line. A lot of accepting who you are, a lot about being flexible to situations you find yourself in, and the unconscious expectations we have and how we resist them. Listening for that internal voice that's always just sort of yapping in your brain, and hearing it and knowing what to do with it and your feelings. So here's what I wanted to talk about a little bit. And then I wanted to sort of do a send off, and then you can hear from the girls if you'd like. and hear maybe a couple sentences from them as to what the semester taught them. I think it was a really good idea because so many times I'll hear something and I wish more people could hear it, or I'll say something, and not that I think my words are that golden, but sometimes I feel like, wow, I don't know where those words came from, but if I listen to my own words, I should follow my own advice. Those were some good ones. Maybe that's why I'm sitting in front of a microphone right now. Also, okay, I did this podcast last week and I just sort of like put it out because I really wanted to describe my week and in this war. And I also think that so many people have had different kinds of weeks and some people feel helpless or afraid. And I wanted to get into those feelings today. But the feedback was really mixed. I got so many people who said that that really helped them get through the week because they had loved ones in Israel or people who lived in Israel and just got a kick out of it and enjoyed it. And I got so many trolls, just like so much free Palestine. Oh my gosh. But I hopefully in a sophisticated way deleted it quietly, and I noticed that I really didn't care and it didn't bother me at all because whatever. We're spreading light. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for as a nation, and that's why I'm sitting in front of this camera at the moment. Okay, so feelings. I personally have been going through this week of, again, sirens, kids at home, and I thought I was killing it. I was like, wow, I found some Zen energy. Like, I have not meditated once, and I was like, oh, this is, I feel good. I wanted to daven nicely. I've been in my kitchen a lot. I've been loving sort of cooking and hearing what they wanted. For some reason, there's been a ton of sashimi requests and spicy tuna and sushi rice, which is so my love language. So it's been fun, and I was like, okay, I am so fortunate for the time I have right now. By the way, as I'm speaking, I'm hearing this like massive army jet situation above my head. Just in case you weren't sure it was war and I forgot for a minute, we're here to be reminded. But again, it's a reminder of strength. So as I was saying, I felt really patient. Felt like I was able to help people who were more anxious than I was and talk them through it. And then, dun, 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 she showed up. She showed up. Who's she? Irritated me, critical me. Like I was like, oh, there you are. Okay. And it was a nice reminder. And the reason I'm describing this is because it's really, really important to let the emotion be. And here's what I'll say about it. I went to bed and I told my son, please, like, let's lock up the house. He just came back from yeshiva that night. I said, let's lock up the house, set the alarms by 10. And I know that's early for like older boys or whatever, but come on, like it's war. And then at 12:30 a.m., I got woken up with a siren, and I just sort of texted all the bedrooms near me as I was slowly walking to the mamad. And I have two little kids who are sleeping in the mamad with their little puppy. And if you listen to the last episode, yeah, she's so cute. She's so cute. Okay, so sure enough, my other son texted me and said, oh yeah, he has friends over or whatever. I'm like, he has friends over? And all of a sudden I'm like wrapping myself up because I'm like in PJs and I don't even know what's showing. And again, I was in a deep sleep, which I'm not always in a deep sleep, like at 12:30. And I got really mad. I got really, really triggered. And I started rage texting, like, get down here. And I told you no one. And he's like, I'm so sorry. Or it was a mistake. I'm like, it was a mistake? What do you mean? You accidentally invited kids? Did you trip? Like, I was not being very nice. And he was really apologetic and sweet about it. And I felt bad. And in the morning, I woke up in the morning and that feeling was still there. And I'm like, well, why am I so triggered? Like, big deal. Like, he's such a good boy. Everyone left. Then I see a mess. And now my little kids are under fire. And I'm like, guys, if you see a mess, you clean it and you don't leave. And I'm just sort of overreacting and spiraling. And I'm not sure I found the reason for it, but I learned a lot from it. And I learned a lot, how working on these types of lessons and learning more about feelings, it really helps. It doesn't help you become an angel. It doesn't help you to divorce from feelings and never react improperly, but it helps in a bunch of ways that I want to get into. And the first thing was apology tour. When it comes to my kids or spouse, I've got no problem apologizing. In fact, they're like, it's okay, it's fine. I'm like, yeah, but I need to go over to each kid and be like, look, I overreacted. It wasn't you. And when I overreact, I'm human. And even if you were wrong, if there's an overreaction, I want you to realize that's my problem, not your problem. I'm kind of always afraid of children internalizing or thinking their parents are correct 100% and there's something wrong with that. Like, that really bothers me because kids are gold and they mess up just like we do. And me messing up, like, I just want to be a role model, not again because I'm a saint or because I'm divorced from feelings, I want to be a role model to show maybe them or myself, yeah, I can overreact and I can walk back from it. And there's always hope and there's always tshuva, and repentance can happen in an instant. Okay, so don't forget, tshuva means coming back closer to yourself. And that's what I wanted to get into. Anyways, I went over to each kid separately. And then I sat down with my son, the one with the friends, and I was like, I was trying to figure out why, like, what's going on? What am I feeling? That's the first step I wanted to talk about. Okay. What am I feeling without judging it? Even if it's in the moment, even as you're overreacting, there's a part of you that's saying, oh, like you're holding back the horse, like, okay, then. But you're still overreacting. Yeah, your mouth might be moving. And again, but at least you're aware. So I'd say realization is a really, really big deal. What am I feeling? And I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to judge it. Even if I'm like, I'm acting crazy, I'm not going to judge it and be like, you're a crazy person. I'm not. I am acting crazy. Okay. So I also want to say I'm not excusing myself. Like, do no harm. I do think that we don't really have an excuse to mistreat people. So I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about being a human being within the range of not burning down the house, just like regular stuff. So why? And I also believe when we react badly to something, we were triggered, which means our normal response is to be reasonable and logical. Even if you're an emotional person, no shame in that. You will normally react within some bound of logic. But when you're activated and you're acting in a way that the response is not at all equal to what just happened and you feel like you're overdoing it, I think that's a great question mark. I think that's a door that's waiting to be open. Like, what was that about? And why did I react that way? And what's the first thing that comes up? And I did that. And I like that I did that. What's the fear underneath? Like, what am I hiding? Sometimes, especially with anger, I would say, or frustration, it's masking fear. What am I afraid of in this moment? So I was thinking about it, and like, I won't give so many details, but I think it kind of was this idea of, I thought maybe my son and his friends were like playing me or pulling a fast one on me. And I remember as a kid feeling that in such a big way, during all the tumultuous drama that was going on in my parents' divorce and court cases and whatever. I remember feeling like maybe one parent was hiding something from me and other people knew about it and I didn't. And it made me feel like a fool. So when I sniff someone being a bit shady around me or lying, I do get activated. And activated, of course, is not me going crazy, but I do feel like, oh, I'm really, really upset. And again, the situation didn't warrant that at all. And what's the fear underneath? Like the fear underneath is everyone to be don't like over honest, over a lot. Safe in this relationship. I also think my kid, obviously I'm safe in that relationship. You got to know, like I said, there's no honesty. Every situation warrants something else. But in this situation, I did feel that way. And he was so sweet and nice. And he was like, no, I did something wrong. What do you mean? If you would have just said, don't do that again, what if I wouldn't have listened? I'm like, no, my love. I was not frustrated so I could affect a change. I was being frustrated because it was my issue. Another thing was when I came upstairs then and everything was messy, I guess I was already in a tizzy when I went to bed or something. And again, tired. Fatigue was a huge deal because we're not sleeping a lot. And again, we are not robots. We're human and we need sleep. We need hugs. We need nurturing. Like I heard someone tell me that you should make a list of 30 things you love, starting from showering to vacation to listening to music to seeing a friend for coffee, whatever. And whenever you're feeling low on fuel, go back to the list and see what it is. And sometimes it's just that shower. It really, sometimes it's that book or whatever it is that's on your list, take a walk, or it really sort of brings you back to yourself, and then you breathe and give it place, enter it. So when I woke up that morning fatigued and I was like, oh, everything's such a mess, I felt out of control. I felt like if things continue like this, I'm going to lose it. And I don't want to be this person. And if things get messier, I'm going to be a messier person. And I need everything to be in order. And it was this feeling of trying to control everything. And the second I made the decision, all right, I'm over it. I feel it. I felt it sort of dissipate. And I don't think you can rush those types of feelings, but I gave it space. I didn't push it away. I didn't yell at myself. I didn't roll my eyes at myself. I took myself seriously and thought, okay, I just went through something. I made my kids go through something. We're normal. And then I apologized to those little cuties and they're like, Mom, it's fine. Yeah, but you might think it's fine, but I can do better. And I also included that I'm going to do stuff like this again. I'm going to overreact. Guys, if you're listening to this and you're like, girl, please, like what? You shouted at people. We shout all the time. I'm not a shouter, not because I worked on myself, but because it's not my nature. So let's just say you are a yeller. And I don't think that's like too hot, don't get me wrong, but let's just say you're also a big lover, maybe, and maybe you have a lot more empathy than I do, or whatever the energy that you're giving is. Your normal is different than my normal, and for my normal, I'm generally quite calm. And I know these are extenuating circumstances, but when I'm sort of frazzled, I really feel off kilter, and I'm very sensitive to how I feel. I'm sensitive to how my body feels. So I mentioned, if you're an angry person, some people have this like fiery energy. Maybe you're a more loving person, right? So in other words, every midah, every personality trait has its front and its backside. And if I would just work on breaking my anger only, I might break myself and the love part of me too. I don't have to break myself. I can channel it. I can find out where anger is suitable. Oh, there are so many places, by the way. And let it there, because the world needs a holy anger, not an unholy one. Okay. And I don't think suppressing these things is the healthiest idea. So I wanted to talk about some of those types of ideas of what is going on. The first thing that is so important is to remember that all of us have a piece of God within us. We all have a piece of God inside of us, which means the world needs that piece to be expressed. There's a specific, unique light that doesn't exist in anyone else before or after me that the world needs from me. And if I'm obsessed or busy with how bad I am, then I've crushed my light and I'm just suppressing. And by the way, more toxicity will come out of that. I'm sure of it. So, okay, I feel things, I feel normal things. And for some people, that's anxiety. For some people, it's jealousy. And we've been taught that there are good feelings and there are bad feelings. And I'm here to say with full confidence, there is no such thing as a bad feeling. There is a bad action. There are negative thoughts, but feelings, every feeling is welcome. Every feeling is another clue as to what I'm here to learn about myself. Take that feeling, learn from it, and express it in a way that causes as little harm as possible. Or on the flip side, to take that feeling and cause joy for you and the world around you. And it's really not that hard, because it's the things that come the most naturally to you. Now, there's a reason why we love babies so much. It's not only the big eyes and the helplessness, it's also because they're completely real. They'll cry when they want, they will laugh when they want. They actually maintain eye contact so much longer than we do, because we're so self-conscious. Like, what are they thinking if I just start staring at them? But a baby will see something or see someone and just lock eyes with them. And it's such a refreshing idea to be around a child or an animal that is just being themselves fully. And I wish we can sort of not become babies, because our job is to evolve as human beings, but to take some of that with us. They say Sarah Imenu lived for 100 years, 20 years, 7 years. And I love the idea that she took every year with her, because she didn't just become a curmudgeony, grumpy old woman, but she became a wizened old woman. But her fun 7-year-old was still there. And her curious 20-year-old didn't leave her either. And you sort of collect those stop signs with you when you come to the end of your life, gathering all these sort of experiences, but also personalities per decade. And you become such a full, well-rounded person. And I would like to take our baby stage with us before we got hurt and before we were afraid to be vulnerable, and bring up with us to the wizened person we are today. The famous expression I love is that we're trying to be the person our younger self would want to. I love that idea. And I think we're doing it without even realizing we're doing it. So why would we react badly? If we're so good, like I'm saying, right? And no feeling is bad, then why would I react poorly to things? And really, the further you are from yourself, is the actual sort of result will be bad behavior. So a chet, which unfortunately was translated into sin, which sin, I don't even know what sin means, but really the chet means that you have a bow and arrow and you missed the mark. You went far away from your target. What's my target? My target is me, being me fully. And every time I deny myself a feeling or deny myself something nice because I don't deserve it, deny myself some sort of self-gratitude, being thankful for who I am, when I do those things, that's when things are expressed in a negative way, you know? And then we'll always have ways to walk it back, because tshuva means that I'm not going someplace else. I'm coming back to me. Lashuv means to return. It doesn't mean to go somewhere else. So it's not like I see a role model somewhere and me doing tshuva will become that person. No, I can emulate behavior and see if it fits into my life. But in reality, tshuva doesn't mean going outward. It really does mean going inward. into me. So when I have a specific feeling and I give it space and I become curious, I have insight, but I'm also showing myself that I matter. I'm also showing myself that I'm going to handle myself with kid gloves. Like, I'm also fragile. And there's a little child inside of me that maybe suffered somewhere. Not maybe, like, come on, we've all suffered somewhere. And when you push that child to the side, it gets expressed physically. It really, really does in all sorts of ways. We don't even have to get into it. And when I give her space, and that doesn't mean I'm trying to reason with her and I'm not trying to logically speak to her, I'm just there and accepting of those feelings. I think that's when I'm a fuller person. I think that really yields confidence because I'm showing myself that I'm worth it. I'm proving it to myself. And when I do nice things for myself, same thing. I'm telling my brain, telling my heart, I'm going to have a nice meal, or I am going to take a walk because I feel like it, or I'm in the mood of dancing. Again, you have a list. I hope guys do a list. I think that's such nice homework. You can leave a comment and share what things are on your list, and maybe people can read those comments and see if it helps them too. In fact, missing the mark, by the way, it's like imagine you planted a field, and on the picture of the seeds, you're supposed to have a beautiful, I don't know, basil plant, and instead everything is wilted and yellow, and you would say it's because of circumstances. The surroundings weren't right. The seed had all the potential. And I would say that about ourselves too. Like, we are born with this potential, this journey that's laid out in front of us. But if we don't create the surroundings where we can thrive, and again, each person thrives in this specific way. Universally, we all want to matter. We want to be needed. We want to be loved. We want to love, and we want to give. But then there are the unique things that only we know about ourselves that we need. And to be real with it, there is nothing wrong with saying, I need X, Y, and Z, right? I know I really do enjoy having a coffee and quiet time in the morning and being outside. I mean, I have a whole list of what I need to do to be my best version of myself. And you know what? When I do that, the people around me have a better version of me, which makes their day better. So selfish in that way is actually being sort of selfless, if you really think about it. And the people who want to be doormats and martyrs because, I don't know, he needs me and she needs me, nobody wants that energy around them. And you'll find people criticizing you, even though all you were doing was nice things, because there's something there that they felt you didn't respect yourself. And I think people pick up on that and disrespect you back. And I also think that when you respect yourself and you sort of prove it without saying a word, but the way you carry yourself and walk through life, or the way you do treat yourself, I think people around you respect you. It's just an unspoken language. And so much of language is unspoken. So many interactions were not because of the words you said, but of the energy around you. We know that. So what would be missing the mark the most? And I would say it would be guilt. I would say it's guilt, fear of punishment. I think that would be the biggest mismatch. And I would say it's guilt. And we didn't get that from our Masorah. I'll say that without naming names, but the idea that you're born a sinner is so not Jewish. Again, we're born with Chelek Elokai Mima'al, we're born with Neshama, we're born with all these terms that mean the light of God, the soul, the breath of God, however you want to phrase it, which means that you're already born worthy of love without even having to accomplish anything. So the idea that you're born a sinner almost means like, let me control my feelings so much, because if I let go for a second, I'm horrible, I'm a monster, I'm evil. But in reality, that's not the case. And of course, obviously, we can be busy with what we're not good at and the blowups we had that day. It sounds like I really focused on that little snag in my plan of calmness, but I'm just saying this for benefit of the lesson we're learning. I let it go. After I apologized, it was gone. If I really believe that tshuva is erased, and it's a miraculous idea, tshuva, repentance is a mitzvah, it's a positive commandment in the Torah, and then God's like, it's gone, it's over. And I don't really believe it's over, then I don't really have faith in obviously what God says, but also I don't really have faith in the ability to bounce back from things. And then I'm just stuck in the muck of cyclical negative behavior. I never get out of it because, yeah, I apologize, but what if she didn't really forgive me? And what if I didn't really mean it? And what if I didn't really apologize? And you get stuck in a loop. And it's just, I mean, health wise, mentally, it's not okay. But also, it's not the way it's working. If you have faith in, first of all, your own intuition, because in reality, if someone apologizes in a real way and you're healthy, right, you can forgive them. If you can't forgive them, at least you don't have to be obsessed with them. You can give them space. And if they did something really horrific over the years, I hope by the time you're ready to leave this world, you can let go of that too. In other words, the natural progression in a healthy way is letting go. Why wouldn't I forgive myself? I also think that when you have a lot of negative self-talk, you would be faker because you would think that I have to be charming so people will like me, because if they knew the real me, no one would stick around. I actually remember feeling that when I was younger. I think like as an early teen, I remember feeling like I had to be really pleasant. And I would look at girls who were being bratty and be like, whoa, they've got so much courage. Like, how are they able to do that? How are they able to be bratty and feel like their friends would still be there? I just thought that if I agree with everyone around me, or at least be fun or nice to be around, then everyone would stick around. And that made me swallow a lot of the real me. And I think that would have been way more fun to be around, to be honest. I think I'm kind of fun. And as I got older, I let that go. And, I obviously don't act like a complete monster, but I am really not concerned with the impression I make. And I really just want to be myself. And whoever doesn't like it can just walk away. And at the same time, you want to treat people with respect, obviously. But I think it's easier to treat people with real respect when you do have self-respect. It's all like this big mirror, this cosmic mirror of how I'm treating myself. I feel like, not to sound really woo-woo, but I do think the universe will sort of reciprocate. Kamayim panim al panim. It's sort of like this looking in this reflection of mirrors. So if I just stop controlling so much and I surrender, feel the way it feels in your body when you control, everything is clenched. You're trying to control your behavior and don't say this and don't say that. And you know what if you just let it go? And I don't mean that you had word vomit. I'm just saying, if you just control maybe your speech, but let the thoughts just go through you, let the feelings go through you. See what happens if you don't judge them, and see what happens when you're nice to yourself. And I just think that is so beautiful. I've been told that your feelings really are a real part of you and your thoughts are not. So let's take that for a second. So the thoughts come in like a sound. So the thoughts come in and then they leave, just like you hear a sound and the sound goes away. And you didn't create that thought. You have no idea where that thought even came from. Yeah, if it's repetitive, you're right. You held on to something. That's true. But if just a weird thought comes into your head, like an anxious thought or a dark thought or a really happy thought, you're not really sure where it came from. But if you watch it like a movie, it'll slowly go away. Now, feelings, that is something that needs to be there and be expressed. And I think that feelings can also come and go, but for the most part, the only way they're released is by being acknowledged and being seen. And someone once taught me that when you think and you attach yourself to thought, you're in a world called Chet Eitz Hadat. That means the sin of that tree with Adam and Eve of thought. And when you're living in a place where the thoughts are sort of like, I don't know, a bit of space between you and them, and you're living in a place where you're acknowledging feelings, then you're living in a place called Eitz Chaim, which is the tree of life. You're fully alive. It's like the difference of I know is Eitz Hadat, and I feel is this Eitz Chaim. And when I feel things, my body does feel good. It does feel more alive. So if I had to sum up sort of this like tiny list that I made, I would say be loyal to yourself, find out what you love doing and make sure that your toolbox is full of ideas that make you feel good, and do those things so the people around you can A, learn by example, what does it mean to treat yourself well, and B, they can benefit from your light and feel loved by you, because you are a loving person all of a sudden, right? And it's not all of a sudden, probably. It's probably years of relearning things. And accept the moment as it is, and also accept the feeling as it is. Everything that's happening right now, and I'll probably say this so many times because this is something that I need to hear a lot, the mitziut, which means the situation at hand, is Ritzon Hashem, is the will of the divine, even the feelings I have. Again, my actions, how I react to them, that's really my choice. That's my Bechira level. But the thoughts, again, I don't know where they came from, and I can watch them leave without force. The feelings, that's a part of me that's vital. The actions, here's my control. So in reality, no one can really cause you to feel certain things. I'm not saying that we're not affected by people's energy and really scary situations. Of course we are. Anxiety, and trust me, when that siren goes off, there were many times where my heart would start to beat much quicker, and weirdly enough, that doesn't happen anymore. I guess you do get used to strange things, but my biggest superpower, and not mine, but your biggest superpower is knowing that you have the control to cause your own happiness and your own sadness. So if I had to go through a list, I would say, what am I feeling without judging it? Why? What's the real story? What is happening? What's it bringing up for you? What's the fear underneath that's hiding behind the feeling that you have now that you consider negative, but probably is neutral? Breathing, give it place, breathe, enter the fear, feel it, just breathe. Physical action, sometimes that's really helpful. Take a run, take a dance, or go up a flight of stairs, just like let it out if that's what it's feeling. And sometimes it's the opposite, it's the lack of energy. Go into bed, go get cuddly, like go figure out what you need at the moment. And again, when you're going through something that's even more severe, treat yourself the way you would treat a newborn child. Okay. And don't give it a shelf life. Give it as much time as it needs because it'll go when it's ready to go. And I think that when we're down on ourselves, that's when those types of feelings don't go away. I, again, have to reiterate, I am not coming in place of mental health professionals, and to those people who have really gone through it. Again, if you're not judging it, get the help that you need, whatever it is, so that we can embrace ourselves and learn what self-love is. And I do think that's part of our journey here. I've taught a lot of things over the years. I've learned a lot of things over the years, but the idea of regesh, of feelings, and loving who I am, all of me, has really changed. I mean, the self-acceptance, it's changed so much on how I see myself and how I relate to the people I love most, which matters the most, because strangely, usually the people we love the most get an uglier side of us. And that's just so crazy because, again, they're the ones that we love the most. So love yourself. Put that mask on before you put it on your child, right? That's the instruction on an airplane. There's a reason for that. We got to fill up with fuel and goodness so we can continue on. So one of the girls at the Sun did mention this lesson, and that's the one I wanted to sort of elaborate on. So if you keep listening to part 2, you can hear just a little bit of what the girls enjoyed and the back and forth for their evaluation. So until we speak again, I want to wish safety and quiet, but the good kind of quiet, joy and acceptance.
We're at final evaluation at MTC to find out what did the girls say about Chassidut class. We learned about Kabbalah, the Arizal, Chassidut. And for their evaluation, we want to hear their perspective on what they think you guys at home might not have learned and might benefit you and touch you the way it did us. So let's get into it. We're going to be starting. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Surfer. And one thing that I feel like struck me in this class is I heard this quote, Esther said quote, I don't know who said whatever your self image is what you're going to attract. And like so I see it as like people see like your self confidence, and if you don't have confidence in yourself, like it sets you up for what type of friend and boy like will come into your life. And like it just teaches me that you should always be like the best person you can be so you can attract the best person that's for you. I love that. Yeah, that's good. I like that a lot. There's a lot of that in Kabbalah that you think that you're just a victim to your circumstances, when in reality, you do create the world you're about to live in. And the world will push back what you deeply believe about yourself. So yeah, that's profound. And not everyone gets to hear stuff like that. And it puts the ball back in your court and it's like a sign of the next step. Very much. Why? You have to say your name. All you want we need the mic. Oh, what's up? Hi. An idea that stuck with me this year was that you never want your life to be like this and then that. Cause like, yeah, your high will be really high, but then your lows will be really low. So if your life is always like this and it's more steady, like nothing will ever be too extreme. And I think that was something that just really amazing, something that will be helpful in your. And for those of you guys who aren't watching this, when you describe, it's like going to a high peak and then eventually falling to a low valley. So you're so psyched and excited, and then you're so bummed and depressed. And in other words, in life, just try to get to a place where you're kind of enthusiastic and then kind of sad instead of the extremes. And I think the middle ground is balance of everything. That's the hardest and most subtle way to live. That's another lesson there when I learned that to keep my life. Yes. Hi, my name is Raquel, and a lesson that really stuck with me was about being open-minded and accepting yourself. And a lesson that I really thought was important was about the shoot, which is flexibility. And it's about breaking your unconscious like thoughts that you have. And sometimes it's so easy to believe things by yourself and to be insecure. But there's such thing as self-fulfilling prophecy. So like if you believe that you're something, you will act that way. And so you have to change your mindset and just be more or less open and accepting to yourself. And also, lo ta get, don't resist. Oh, load the heat not get. Yeah, it's not yes. So you have to accept, like, let's say, class one day, you just have to accept it and talk through it, not be so hard on yourself, and just like reminding yourself that it's just one day. I believe it means I'm a boiled idea, which comes from a god Esther with orange modified adopted Esther. And they use that word. And it could also mean inheritance and inheritance of having one God and the Jewish holidays. And we learn that like you do believe, don't believe, like it doesn't really matter. But what matters is that you stay loyal and you use Judaism as a moral conduct. And you stay loyal to Jews and you stay loyal to Israel. And even like committing maybe to Rambam's 13 principle of faith. Um, and like we learned about signs of just being a loyal Jew and Maccabees. And like one of the ideas is like honesty. And like when you're honest, you're the most vulnerable and you're not surrounded by the walls of your own thoughts and your own brain. So loyalty is surrendering yourself to something higher than your own brain. And I think that's like a really important idea, especially if people are struggling with Amuna, like that, like at the end of the day, you just stay loyal to this light. Um, it will bring me out.
Hold on. Jesse. I'm amazed that you chose this because this was the one thing that you were struggling with together with me. You remember last week, you were like, but Awuna, and everyone said it was faith. And then how do I accept it? It's so cool to me that you almost went home. And the one lesson that really rubbed you the wrong way, correct me if I'm wrong, was something that really struck deep and something that you wanted to repeat. Am I accurate or not? Well, like, I feel like this is the one thing that wasn't bothering you. I observed it last week. Being a positive did you? I could have bothered you.
No, I like this idea.
That makes me so happy. Not that you liked it. I want people to dislike or like whatever they like. I like that you were in class and you were pushing back till it made sense to you. That makes me really happy because then it sits with you, you know?
Yeah. I also learn like I learn 13 yes, it so can it like the connecting ideas isn't sorry.
Yeah, very.
Hey, hi. Hi. I'll stand up. And for serious ones today, Esther's an amazing teacher. That's number one. What's and this class has taught me so much. Honestly, I think it's changed the trajectory of my year. It sometimes when I'm learning Chassidut, it doesn't even feel like I'm like learning total almost. It's like it just feels like knowledge of the world. It just feels like something everyone should know. And also Esther told us that you should find the Torah that speaks to you, and I think Chassidut really speaks to me. For so many years, I spent time learning. It's like rubbed me the wrong way, and you're supposed to find the Torah that feels right in your shop. So she this is like quoting from her. She said, "In your hand grasp a feeling. In your hand grasp a spell. No. So stop expecting your brain to understand God." And I think I'd always struggled with like asking these big questions. And for the first time in my life, she said, "You don't really need to find an answer. It's not about finding an answer. It's about being a person, trying to make the world a better place, and just living your life the way it is." And also, the things that you love are there for a reason. Everything about you was created like to the T, exactly what you were meant to. So things you enjoy were given from God. Things you dislike were given from God. So instead of trying to change yourself and make you like things you shouldn't like, just go like what God gave you, because eventually you're gonna find the point of your living and everything. You're gonna find a job that you want. It's all based on the way that God made you, and the what you need to do in this world are exactly gonna connect.
Crystal Latanya said grasping, but it wasn't my role, but I got to be the messenger. And I think it's profound how what you're bringing up is how naturally things can be. Like what you like doing is probably what you're meant to be doing. It's not always this battle. We then sent the mic over to the next girl, and she was not into the whole podcast thing, and she thought she'd try. And then she started laughing. And we all started laughing and like credit to
Oops.
trying. It's not for everyone, so we just happily laughed along with her and passed
Oh,
the
not
mic
say I don't
to the
get
next girl.
Don't worry about
But
it.
being shy or camera
And
shy,
also, if you didn't like it later, you want me to say
it's all
scratch
good.
it. They but
It's really all good.
something like that in sports that really stuck with me is the way that we react to things and how we can control that. So our memories and emotions definitely affect our reactions to different things. So if someone makes a comment and then you get really, really offended by it, you have to look inside yourself and ask yourself, like, am I being reasonable and is this actually warranted? And I've done that a lot recently. Like I find myself getting really frustrated at things and I'm like, why is this affecting me so much? And then you have to like look in yourself and find the reason why this certain thing is frustrating you. And that's been very important to me. And another thing is not judging your thoughts. So being an observer of your thoughts and seeing them and not judging them and not following the thoughts, but just accepting the better and just being okay with that. So especially when I'm meditating, I would get really frustrated if I was trying to meditate and I was just like thinking about something random. So, and not now I've really sidetracked. So now when I meditate and I have a thought, I just like, okay, the thought's there and I'm accepting that there's a thought and then I move on. It's really helped.
Wow.
Meditation.
So both of those things sounded like you were coming from a place where you didn't really want to have judgment and you stopped judging your reactions to things and you started being curious in a way. Like, oh, why am I triggered by this person? There's a lesson, there's a door I'm waiting to open. Instead of how could you think that? In reality, all people have these triggers. So it sounds like you didn't only not judge your reaction to things, you also don't want to judge your thoughts. So it sounds like judgment was like a really big release for you, for most of us. So I think also that idea of knowing that those thoughts aren't necessarily accurate, but I'm not at fault for that first thought that pops into my head really helps us like.
Hi, I'm Lionel. And I also before to say like seeing that we worked so much in this class. I genuinely have never heard anything about this. And it's really made me feel connected to myself, to the world, to like any part you do Lisa. I really appreciate this class and anything that Mr. has taught us. But it's really hard to like pick one thing or really, really stood out to me because it's so much. But something that I feel kind of changed me was I feel like so many people have so many feelings and so many thoughts and so many things that they want to say and want God to like sure from when they don't know how to do that. And someone else said is that you have to speak to God out loud. It really helps to have like somewhere physically that the thought can land to like help manifest it kind of will land on you, land on help. And so that's been helpful to me that I've been like I have so much to say. I don't even know what to say. I just like start to speak out loud. I really awesome. I love that. Yeah.
I'm so glad we all come in. I think that's so cool. But I think that making things available to you. In other words, I have something to say, I wish for something. And if I keep it in and so to speak, there's a shefa or this like outpouring from the heavens has no place to land. So you build a kli by vocalizing it. Your ears hear it, which helps you to also believe that you've been heard. So it's a real exercise in metaphysics, like how the world works in this miraculous way, but also naturally. If I see something out loud, I've expressed my wants, and then that's what comes at me. Yeah, for sure.
Hi, my name is Sudawee, and I also wanted to say this class genuinely it's changed my life so much. And my whole life, I feel like I've been trying to navigate my mind and like trying to just figure out how my mind works. And this class, I can honestly say, has helped me do that. And I want to just leave with this idea about quiet. So the Ramchal says that the greatest part, the service of God, is found in silence. When a person restrains his thoughts, words, and actions, for the soul becomes cluttered by these things. And there's this idea that real quiet means just letting your thoughts come in and out, similar to what later was saying before also. And this shouldn't allow clutter to build up in our minds because thoughts come in, we accept them, we hear them, and thoughts go out. And this is something that like the purpose of Shabbos also lets us do because the purpose of Shabbos is to be and to stop doing and to start being. And there's adding on to this, there's this idea that meditation brings kindness to us, because when we're quiet, when we're peaceful, when we're just ourselves in the present moment, it allows our neshamas to shine through, and our neshamas are pure kindness. And I really, really love that idea. And there's just there's so much more that we could discuss about this idea. But I really just think helping ourselves find our own quiet and whatever place that may be for us, and like it's given for everybody, and just letting ourselves be is so, so valuable, and getting to know ourselves and ultimately getting to know our family in the process.
Love that. And it almost sounds like a contradiction. Like you were saying things out loudly and or even if it's said silence, but they're different days call for different things. 100%. And even the silence will be in a room full of noise and has silence. You could be fighting for your life and have silence, you know? And I think it's when you are good to yourself by being present and learning these things, you start to meet the kindness that is your soul, and you're being kind to yourself at the same time. So what comes out of it, it's just like triple, quadruple love for yourself and people around you, like, really. So it's actually the least selfish thing you can do is be kind to yourself, you know?
Okay, that was so cute. Like very simply what I was gonna say. There. So now I'm like,
Hi, I'm Gabriella. I want to talk about do meditation. I know some people touched on that, but throughout this year, I feel like since learning in Esther's class, I got to try it out throughout the end of the classes. Sometimes you do like a 10-minute meditation, and also I got to try it out on my own. And I really feel like I grew from it. And I didn't think that connecting to Hashem could be on that level. I always thought, like, oh, you have to daven from the sitter. We have to say these exact words and whatever. But the meditation can be through the sitter. It could also be being fully present and listening in different conversations, or doing something that you love, like being in the flow, like in a basketball game, or playing an instrument type. And I think that's so beautiful that like you can connect to Hashem in other ways. You don't just have to read exactly what's in the sitter. And I think that really opened up a whole new world for you within my Judaism and my spirituality.
hi, I'm back. I'm Jordana.
And one of the lessons that we learned, actually from the first semester was about feelings, I guess. And we talked about there's always two sides to the scale. You could be happy or even be angry, to be content with what you have, or to be jealous of what you don't have. You could love or you could fear. And like the way you choose to deal with that in each situation depends on your mindset. So if something bad happens to you, it was going to happen regardless. So the way we learned that can deal with it, either you could be like, okay, this is gonna happen anyways. So I decided I'm gonna be happy about it. I'm not gonna let it ruin my day. Or you can let it ruin your day, but then it affects the rest of your day.
Yeah. And with a big theme of this year that I felt was like balance, how we're supposed to be balanced, how the world is supposed to be balanced. And with fear, there's love, and with anger, there's happiness. And when that balance is off, like there's too much of one thing, or you let one thing consume you, then everything else in your life is off. It's like someone said, like, we're not supposed to be going to these high peaks and then like very down low. Like we're supposed to like kind of be like at a medium.
And thank you everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Wishing everyone safety, quiet, and until next time, be safe.